big sports fan, you've probably interacted with Fanatics more than you even realize. Every time you're scrolling down Facebook, down Twitter, down Reddit, you're seeing all those ads for NFL Shop, your favorite team store. That's Fanatics. That's Fanatics in action. Fanatics is basically the e-commerce giant in the sports industry. So all of the licensed apparel, all of the licensed collectibles, homeware, pretty much anything you could think of with a team logo on it, Fanatics will be producing. And they're producing on behalf of teams, on behalf of players, and on behalf of the league. What that entails is working with the NFL Players Association, vendors like Rydell, Wilson, and athlete partnerships to create unique products and collectibles that tell stories that fans want to remember. So, when a team wins a Super Bowl or a team wins a division or a really exciting moment happens in football, my job is to capture that moment so that fans can relive it every time they look at it. If I look at one of the collectibles on Fanatics, it should spark some kind of memory in my head. If I see the Miami Miracle Kenyon Drake play, it should make me feel a certain way every time I look at it. And that's the goal with these collectibles that we're producing. 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl is a lot of preparation. It's getting ready for all of these potential scenarios. It's building out, we have two teams that can win, and you only see the stuff that drops immediately online with the winning team, but you don't see the stuff that doesn't drop online. So I had 49ers product ready in case the 49ers won. You build out a bunch of different Super Bowl MVP products. You create you do all the legwork beforehand so that you're not scrambling on the back end to fill in products gaps where there are. The big thing that you want to do, and this is across all big events in sports, is you want to be prepared and you want to be putting in the work beforehand. So during the Super Bowl, everyone's watching the Super Bowl during a big watch party. They got all their friends around. I mean, I was sitting in front of the TV with my computer on my lap, and I was just ready to push and watching for different moments in the game that, okay, Damian Williams has that touchdown. How can we capture that Damian Williams touchdown to then translate it into sales after this game? And in the middle of the third quarter, a fun little story, in the middle of the third quarter, Kyle Juszczyk, I don't know if you all remember, but he had a touchdown and he almost had a second touchdown. And it looked like the 49ers were going to win. So I was kind of panicking in my head. I was thinking, wow, like the one guy I did not expect to win Super Bowl MVP is the 49ers fullback. So during the game, I was creating 40 to 50 different unique products in the event that Kyle Juszczyk did win MVP. And I mean, we didn't have to go live with those, thankfully, but it's just amazing to see how quickly and how agile you have to be in order to be able to maximize on these unique, we call them hot markets, but any time you get a certain extreme exposure like that, you really have to make sure you're hitting everything that you can and capitalizing on it as much as possible. We already had planned to sell game use confetti in a collectible, which is a great collectible, but there's only so much confetti out there. And there were some unique tweets printed on each of the confetti, like the white confetti each had tweets on it. So I wanted to capture that. Mahomes' tweet about winning Super Bowl MVP, that was my favorite tweet out of all of them. And I thought, let's replicate that, turn that into a piece that we can keep reproducing over and over. We're not limited by the amount of confetti that dropped onto the field. So we created a secondary piece at a lower price point for the fan who wanted to capture that special moment of having Mahomes' tweet fall onto the field and just remembering their Super Bowl in general. And then there's other pieces we've created too. When Tua got drafted, when Burrow got drafted, we were creating limited products for them just to capitalize on excitement. When Brady and Gronk went to Tampa, they both said run it back on Twitter and Instagram. So what did we do? We naturally said, all right, let's make a run it back piece. And that sold really, really well because fans are excited and you're hitting all of their pressure points and their emotional points. And that's what really gets me excited about this job, is just getting to service the fan and speak on behalf of what does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan want? What does the Miami Dolphins fan want? what does the NFL fan want? I'll break down our product lines into a few different categories. So you have the autograph product line, which is the big bulk of our business. So that'll be leveraging our athlete partnerships to upsell hard goods using autographs. There's the unsigned product lines, which is, like I mentioned, the Brady Gronk piece, the Chiefs piece. That will be no signature. It's products will go, I'll pitch the idea to graphics. Graphics will create the idea. We'll send it to the league for approval. If it just requires the team marks approval, then we will get that approved just with the league. If it requires there are any player images or we need to go through the Players Association, we'll shoot it over to the Players Association. Any edits in the middle, if the NFL says you need to change this from the style guide, we'll go back and we'll revise it. We'll keep going back and forth. And that goes back to the Super Bowl. Like, not everything's going to be perfect the first time. So you need to be getting your work in with enough time for the NFL or the NFLPA to come back and say, you need to adjust this, because they're also very busy with all of their other partners that they work with. So that's the unsigned side. After you get those approvals, you're then making sure all the files are correct. You're dropping them for manufacturing. Manufacturing will take care of it. Standard. Right now, nothing's standard because of COVID. You have to be very careful with manufacturing, but maybe 2 to 3 days, you say 2 to 3 days for shipping and manufacturing and all that. So it's a big process. It requires a lot of different people. The sales team will be pushing it both B2B and D2C. The marketing team will be pushing it online, on banners, on sites. It's a really big web of people working together to be able to put those projects together. There's also game use products. So we have game use partnerships with certain teams, where we will have an entire game use team that works on securing these items and then moving them to sites. And then we have hard goods, so like trading cards, unsigned footballs, unsigned helmets. There's a market for those too. I mean, if you can get an unsigned, I personally love my unsigned Dolphins helmet that I keep in my desk that I got it was like a mini helmet for $30. And I mean, that's a great price point for me. I don't want to spend $300 on an authentic helmet, but that's just me. But yeah, those are the main sources of our product, and those are the big teams that work on it. I'm kind of caught in the middle a lot of the time. So, if something goes wrong in one of the parts, I have to kind of put out the fires, and it's everyone on the team has to work together to make sure it's going to be worked together. It's not a one-man show. It's not a two-man show. It's a lot of people working together. And I mean, we love sports. We love being on a team like that. Phenomenal leadership team that has really put the people first, and worker safety is really a priority. And that's been something that's very admirable, especially right now. I think there's two aspects that you can look at when you say, why is Fanatics doing better than most companies are struggling right now, but Fanatics is doing okay. No one's doing well. But you can look at and say the e-commerce model of Fanatics, heavy e-commerce. I mean, as long as you're able to manufacture safely, even if you have longer lead times, Fanatics is able to execute orders. And right now, we saw with the match, we saw with The Last Dance, anything sports related, we need it in our lives. So when we had a spike in Brady sales over the weekend because Brady was playing golf, which makes a ton of sense. But it's just right now you need to be able to service the fan however possible. And because of Fanatics' e-commerce model, we're able to service those needs as long as we're doing the right things internally to keep everyone safe. And that's really, really important. The other thing that is important to keep an eye on is that all-in challenge. That's something that has probably had a pretty big halo effect on the business. I mean, it came straight from Michael Rubin. And it's a brilliant idea. I'm really glad that it's worked out as well as it has, because it's an amazing charitable cause, and it's raised over $50 million, which is an absurd amount of money to be tossed around right now. But it's all of the people. First of all, when we first started this pandemic, the whole complaint was like, oh, why aren't the rich people donating their money? And the All-In Challenge got that to happen, and it's all going to be going towards the people that need it. And as a result, I mean, Fanatics isn't saying, oh, look at us, we're the ones raising this money, but it's being run on Fanatics' server, and it's generally known that Fanatics is the one that's doing it. So I think that that's helping the business a little bit too, but it's just really, taking care of your workers, treating them well, and taking care of the community when everyone needs it to be taken care of. I think they're doing a really good job of that. I read Sports Business Journal very regularly. I read front office sports articles. I listen to their podcasts. Those are great bits of information, because right now I see everything in my sports e-commerce perspective. I don't see everything outside unless I go and I chase these stories and I learn about what's happening outside of my little segment in the industry. But yeah, those are great. For my particular job, I think Barstool Sports is a great tool to use, because I need to understand the fan. And I think Barstool, yeah, they're hilarious. I love Pardon My Take, but you got to look at the business side of it and how they've found a way to capture the stupid fan online, or the crazy fan online, or the logical fan online. And they've found a way to make little segments out of all of those. And by going on Reddit, going on Twitter, you can really capture how the fan feels. And it's something that wasn't available 20 years ago. It's something that wasn't really available 10 years ago. So it's a new opportunity that we have. And social media is really just what you make of it. If you just consume the wrong content, then you're going to get the wrong output. But if you're consuming the right content, you're going to grow and you're going to learn. And I think right now, especially for anyone who's looking to break in, it's really, really important that you become not necessarily an expert, but become get an advanced understanding of the sports industry, and be a student of sports, be a student of the industry, be a student of sports business, because that's going to pay off in the long run. Right now, there's a lot of people resting on their laurels, and you can be the one getting ahead and putting yourself in the position as the opportunities arise. I would say, again, take this time right now. If you have a lot of free time, learn Photoshop, learn Adobe Premiere, learn Excel. You might think you have a basic understanding, but just develop. If you think you're okay at it, get good at it. If you think you're good at it, get great at it. There's no reason not to improve right now. I'm trying to get better. I'm taking multiple classes right now. Justin can vouch for me there. But everyone should be trying to get better. And if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So just think of skills that might complement as you're learning about these different roles and some of the different activations that you're seeing. Think, how could I help contribute to that? And what skills could I learn to help me contribute to that down the road? I had a little bit of one of these trajectories, as Craig can attest to. I graduated in May 19 as a sport management and business minor. That is the clean way to look at it. The messy way to look at it is I switched my major 4 times. I didn't really figure out what I wanted, not necessarily what I want to do, but I didn't find a sense of direction with what I was trying to do with my career until midway through junior year. So if you feel like, if you're younger than that, if you're older than that, I mean, there's no right time that you can find, oh, I want to break into sports. If you're 30, if you're 40, you can break into sports. If you're a freshman in college, you can decide, this is what I want to do. Like, it's just important that you kind of decide that you want to do and you lock in. And I mean, I really locked in, and I think I did as much as possible to milk Craig with reaching out to alumni. But I was very involved on campus. I didn't have a lot of sports experience in college, so I was involved in Florida Blue Key, Gator Growl, Accent, my fraternity. I was a 4-year dancer for Dance Marathon, so I did pretty much everything imaginably possible, except for working for the athletic department, which is because I waited so long to work for the athletic department, I wasn't able to get an opportunity. I didn't do blue shirts or anything. And it's one of the things that I wish I had gotten some exposure to back in college. But what I did when I made that decision midway through junior year to really lock in, I met with Andrew from IMG. I met with Ray from Octagon. I went to I kept pestering Craig, like, hey, could I go to the Miami networking trip? Could I go to the Tampa networking trip? And I mean, right now, obviously, we're not having those networking trips in the immediate future. But if you see virtual networking trips or anything of that kind of sort, I mean, take advantage. Like, this is basically what that is. But take advantage of that. Any opportunity that you have to learn. I mean, I just tried to hop on all of those. So that was really important. And then I met with Ray for Octagon in September. I want to say, my senior year. And, we met at 7 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 other people that had woken up early for that. It was one other active student and 2 graduate students. So, I mean, these opportunities that come up, a lot of people aren't going to do it. A lot of people aren't going to get up early. They're not going to reach out and be proactive, and they're not going to do these things that sound really great to say, but it takes some effort to do it. And effort is the key in this industry. But yeah, so we spoke in September, and then we followed up again in October, I want to say. And then I wasn't really in touch with her that much after then. It was kind of just, all right, let's see what else we can learn about the industry. So went to Miami, met with some people from the Heat, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Marlins. When we went to Coral Gables, there was all those people that came together for the big networking event. So that was great. And it was just learning more about what's out there. Like, it's not just working for the Dolphins, working for the Yankees. There's a lot of there's the Orange Bowl committee. There's working for HBO Sports. There's ESPN. There's a lot of different ways to work in sports, and you need to really understand all of the different routes you can go if you want to make it and find your spot. But after the networking trip in October, I set my eyes towards February. So I didn't have a crazy internship my last semester, and I think that's really important to touch on, because not everyone gets that super sexy, like, I'm working for the Marlins, I'm working for the Heat. It doesn't always work out like that, and it's okay if it doesn't work like that, because it will eventually work out. So I interned for Eastside High School, and I'm extremely thankful for Philip Crutchfield, the man, for letting me hop on board and help out. And we really took their social presence to a new level. We tried to use the Bleacher Report model of using all the emojis and giving some personality to an account that wasn't really. It was just telling standard information. So I wanted to make it a little more fun, and it worked out. And something that was great about working with Philip was that I was able to take a week. I worked with him to take a week to go to New York. I have a family friend that lives in New York, and I stayed with him for a week. Before I went up there, I sent off 300 emails to companies in New York that I was interested in working for. And I found industry professionals that I was interested in learning about their roles. And I reached out to them, and I got 12 or so meetings set up for that week out of 300 emails. So, I mean, that's just, if anyone's ever read the Grant Cardone book, 10X, like that is 10X in full effect right there. Like, you need to shoot a ton of shots if you want to make some shots. And we made 12 shots there, and I met with people in New York, and it was from like the NBA, Wasserman, Bleacher Report, just a bunch of companies that I was interested in learning about. Right now, you can do that because nobody's going out and meeting anybody. Set up those calls with people that are just sitting at home. They can hop on the phone with you. Not everyone's really busy right now, even though they're slightly less busy. Like, everyone is still very busy, and people will make time for you. There will be some people who will do it, and that's really important. I recommend anyone who hasn't done that before, reach out for informational interviews that way. It's a very effective way to meet people in the industry and to learn more about people that you might not have met otherwise. They weren't UF people that I was meeting with. But then in March, so late February, I went to the Tampa conference, met some more people. Great experience again. Just, it's brought, like, widening your net, broadening your horizons. March, I heard back from Octagon. They asked me to submit an application for the event trainee position. I knew nothing about that specific position. I just knew about their trainee program. So, I touched base with Ray again, and I asked her what she knew about it. She said, BMW is a great team. And, Ray had given me really good guidance up to that point. I trusted her. So I applied, and they asked me to submit a resume and a video resume. And I think the video resume is something that's extremely slept on in the job search, because rather than just sitting in front of a webcam like everyone else did for their video resume, my resume took me over the top with Octagon. And I basically recreated LeBron's "What Should I Do" Nike commercial. And it was like a whole production. Like I was walking around campus, my girlfriend was taking videos of me, and it was just a whole to do. But it worked. It got their attention. Their whole office was talking about it, and I got a follow-up interview, and then I got hired. And out of 2,000 people, I was one of the 16 that got picked, without any any crazy experience in a sports. Like I didn't intern for ESPN. I didn't do anything like that. It's very possible, based on the strength of your application and the strength of your relationships, to give yourself a chance. And I think that's an interesting story there. And then obviously I was out. So I went up to New Jersey for training with BMW at their headquarters. And then I went out to the West Coast, and we were setting up, moving hotels every 2 or 3 nights. We were in a different location. Started in Phoenix, ended in Seattle, went to San Diego, Los Angeles, Vegas, San Francisco. I mean, all these major spots. And I learned so much about all the people in these different areas too, which was really valuable. But Octagon also did a good job of exposing us to different opportunities within the company to stay on board. I had an opportunity within Octagon, and it just wasn't the right fit at the right time. But I was very thankful that they extended an opportunity, and I ended up getting an offer through another Gator, opened a door for me at Fanatics. And that came towards the end. I was sitting in a hotel room with like 3 weeks left in my contract with Octagon, and I was doing some digging on I reached out to this guy in my network, and he said, I asked him like, hey, do you know anything about this position? I knew that he'd worked for Fanatics. I know they have a lot of offices. I didn't know where he worked or what he did specifically. I said, do you know anything about this position? And he said, oh my God, that's so funny. That's my old job. And I was like, wow. So he proceeded to tell me everything about the team, the kind of work you do. And it felt like it was a good fit for my skill set and a good fit for my interests. So I went through, I think, 3 different interviews. It was like 2 phone interviews and an in-person interview when I finally finished my tour. And then I started a few weeks after. I got to go back to UF for a week, see all my friends again. And then I started at Fanatics on September 30th. It's hard to really know what's next. It's really just keeping an eye out for opportunities to continue to grow in my current role, and learning about what else is happening in the industry. You know, the Olympics in 2028, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the growth of esports, keep an eye on the growth of virtual reality, the growth of sports betting. You know, I'm very happy where I am right now, but it's important to continue to learn. And you know, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. It's a common question. You know, you ask me where you'll be in 5, 10 years. I'd be lying if I told you I know. I'm just hoping that 5 years from now, I'll continue to grow, and I'll be in a place that makes me happy and that makes the people around me happy too. I'm one of the youngest on my team and one of the youngest in the office. So yes, it's something that you need to establish credibility. You need to establish, if you don't know enough about what you're doing, you need to learn and learn fast and show that you're not an intern. You're getting hired to do full-time work. You're in a serious role, and it's important to be knowledgeable. You don't have to have all the answers, but you have to have the willingness to learn all the answers and to learn about why certain things are happening. And I think my willingness to learn and to absorb and to not feel like I'm too good for anything. If anything, it's worked in my favor, I think, because I'm willing to just learn about things that I don't know. Whereas if I came in and I was a lot older, maybe I'm thinking, I don't need to learn this. I know a lot more than these guys. You know, I'm very willing to be humble and say, I don't know the answer. Can you please show me how to do this so that I can then execute it and then show someone else how to do it? So it works in your favor. It works against you. It's all depending on how you look on it. So we were talking about esports. I think the reason why esports memorabilia it's a huge industry, but esports memorabilia hasn't taken off yet the way that the rest of esports has, because there's that generational gap. You know, like we could grow up as fans of a certain football team, and maybe that's because our dad and our grandfather, you know, they both love that team too, and that's been passed down. I think the generational differences are going to be noticed more in other sports more so than with the NFL. The NFL, there's a long-standing tradition. You still have Bears fans haven't had a ton of success recently, but there's a lot of Bears history. there's a lot of Steelers history. There's a lot of certain teams that have long-standing history, while teams like maybe the Jaguars don't have that same illustrious history. So there aren't as many retired. We do stuff with retired players too. So you don't have as many of those old Jaguars players to capture as you do for those historic Bears teams or moments like that. So there's definitely a historical gap, but over time that tends to bridge. And I think in certain sports like esports, you'll see the benefits of having that extended exposure. Fanatics is very, very data heavy. We make our decisions based off of, we need this amount of product because in the past year, this is how much has been sold, and we can recalibrate that based on, is there a higher demand this year? Is there a lower demand this year? We will look at numbers in a given month when we're reacting to these big moments. How are certain players getting a bigger bump than others because of, is the Ravens are doing really well. Is Lamar Jackson getting a bigger bump than Marquise Brown? The obvious answer is yes, but there's other situations where we have to look at and evaluate the data to understand where are we going to go with our future product. It's something that we look at regularly. I look at sales numbers almost every day, and I'm just checking to see what trends are. If trading cards are moving really well, what can we do to move that business forward? Right now, that's a very hot market. Trading card cases, just little things that you can do to capitalize on trends that you're noticing. We have monthly reviews for our data that we're noticing with higher ups in our organization, just so we can get a whole team view of how we can move forward. If we need to focus more attention on, adjusting partnerships with the league or with vendors to make sure that we can fill these needs. It's really just important that you understand the data and you're not just blindly making decisions on product, because we're very calculated with how we're going forward with producing and getting stuff ready for the fans. Right now, we're taking fewer chances, just to preserve cash, and on the business side, we don't want to be doing anything risky when we want to make sure that we're able to keep everyone employed and keep everyone happy on that end. But under standard operating, it'll be more about, you want to take chances. You don't want to just have what everyone else out there is going to have. If you see, what we'll do for autographs is we'll have inscriptions where the player they'll sign their name, but they'll also write like a little message. And some collectors find a lot of value in unique messages. So using unique inscriptions will sometimes allow you to push a different product out there without having to get a different raw good that you have in stock. You have 200 helmets in stock, but you can just use one of those and have a player sign a special inscription, and bam, you got a new product. You don't have to go out and get something new and potentially add a sunken cost. And Fanatics is really good about avoiding lost costs and lost inventory, and they're very agile and they're able to pivot. If someone's really good on the Ravens one year, you don't have to have them sign all of the Ravens helmets. You can have them sign some of the Ravens helmets, and then if they do it again next year, maybe you have them sign it, and then they say something really funny on Twitter that's appropriate. You have them inscribe that, and then you have, 6 or 7 or 8 people that are going to buy them as holiday presents because they were something that their kid liked, something that went viral. And it's something you just have to connect all of the dots and try and understand, what's the data we have, what we're seeing online, what's something that we're seeing in the games, how can we connect it all together and create something new. So the balance between skills and networking, it's important to sharpen the tools that you have and make sure people know that you can use those tools. I like to think of yourself as a product. You right now might not be the best version of the product that you can be. Like over your career, you're going to continue to develop. Like the iPhone, when it first came out, was not the current iPhone. It was, in comparison, it was a piece of garbage. But at the time, it was like, wow, this is amazing. You can continue to develop and continue to enhance your personal product and your personal brand by working on those skills. If you think you're going to be going towards more of a design route, work on your Photoshop skills. If you think you're going to go towards a social media management route, think about practicing your social media copywriting. Start start a blog, start an Instagram account, start a Twitter account, get some practice and build a portfolio that you can show employers, because they're going to want to trust someone who they can, if they could see your work at firsthand, they're going to trust you a lot more than they're already going to have to take a chance on you as a young kid. And right now everyone's very, very nervous, and they're making sure they're making the right decisions coming out of this. So you need to make things as easy for them on their end by sharpening your skills and showing them through your networking, like, this is what I've been working on. Is there anything that you'd recommend on top of that to better myself and prepare myself to work in the workforce? It's a transition. And even if you've got your head to the ground, you're grinding, you're ready with all this networking, it is still very different being in the working world, setting up meetings, going to meetings. Like, it sounds very nice and easy on paper, but there is absolutely a transition. Understanding office culture, things that you might have been able to say with your boys back at school, you might not be able to say in the office. And thankfully, I haven't made any of those mistakes, but I'm sure there are people who in that adjustment have slipped up once or twice. And it's important to be very conscious of what you're saying in an office workplace. You don't have to be a robot, but just, you're working with adults, you're not working with kids anymore. So it's important to understand who you're working with and building your confidence, avoiding using like and like all the time in your speech, because it shows a lack of confidence. And you really want to just portray yourself as a competent person as you're going into the working world. You want people to know that you're serious and that you're someone that can be trusted with carrying out tasks. So improve your skills, improve your networking, work on the people that you have. If you don't have people in your network, find people for your network. It's easier now than ever to do it, and let people know what you can do, because if you're not marketing yourself, no one's ever going to buy your product. So it's important to have a good product, but it's also important to sell yourself, and that's something that's really important to keep in mind as you're navigating this job search. I'm working on, first and foremost, my industry knowledge, because I'm really young. I'd like to think that I'm an industry expert. I'm not even close. And I'd like to continue to learn and one day become an industry expert. But by reaching out to people in the industry, like if you guys were on for Tanner from the Jets, he was someone that I reached out to about a month ago, and we spoke, and just learning about how a team is handling a situation like this and how he's preparing for the upcoming season, that expands my horizons and my knowledge base, and it allows me to go back and do my job a little better. If I ever wanted to, help out an organization like that down the road, now I understand some of the challenges that they're dealing with. It's important to just learn about sales, corporate partnerships, hospitality, design. If it's human resources, whatever the field is that you think you might be more inclined to join, learn about it, find out what they're going through right now, what they go through in a standard year. That's what I've been focusing on right now, is building my network. Other classes I've been taking, I enrolled in, I bought a masterclass subscription. I split it with Justin. So they had a buy one, get one deal. If anyone has a friend that wants to go in on masterclass with them, it's BOGO. I highly recommend doing it. There's a lot of there's business lessons on there. There's speaking lessons. There are just general interest lessons, learning about personal finance, just because that's another transition that you face as you go into the adult world. You're not having your parents do all your work for you, it's a nice thing to have on your like your plate. Is like, oh, I'm controlling where my money's going, but it's also, oh my God, I'm controlling where my money's going. So you have to be astute with your finances and understand what needs to be spent, what doesn't need to be spent, how much should be going towards something like rent or utilities. And it's just, as you transition to becoming an adult, it's important to learn about that stuff. So if you're not well-versed on finance, that's something that would be good to learn about, just because when you make the transition, it's one less thing you're going to have to freak you out as you're also trying to adjust to your job. So what I did in particular, I was on the BMW team out on the West Coast, and we were running experiential marketing events for BMW. So what that meant was we were using the M cars. It was called the M-Town Tour. We were using these M cars that aren't normally allowed to be test driven. And we were giving customers the opportunity to test drive this $100,000 car that they might not have been able to drive before, but now they're getting a chance to do it. And the idea is that we're generating leads and we're moving towards conversion. It was a very successful tour. I don't have the numbers on hand right now, but they exceeded all the expectations. And the idea is to generate leads with experiential marketing events. So if you see, for example, the All-State College Football Tour that goes around, we had it at UF. If you see those pop up, if you go to the event, they're usually going to ask for information, maybe fill out a form, give your email. These are typically to generate leads for the client, in this case, Allstate. For BMW, we were generating leads through, they were filling out a form, they signed a waiver, they went on their 10-minute test drive that we created for them. And then we came back to BMW and said, all right, here are the leads that we generated. Here's the information that they want to know. Let's help you push forward and convert some sales. You're not going to see the effects right away, but as you review these plans over time, you see, all right, this was effective, this was not effective, this was a good use of our money, this was a bad use of our money. And then the next year that you do it, you're going to adjust your plan and you're going to keep evolving. That was the first year of the tour, so there was a lot of experimenting done. But they are going to adjust that and they're going to move forward based on us as the guinea pigs. So that was cool to be part of the first tour. Depending on how this situation turns out, I think virtual reality might get pushed to the forefront. I think that if you can turn viewership of the game, if I could sit courtside at a game, like a Miami Heat game, from the comfort of my home, I don't have to worry about the virus. I can still potentially engage in microtransactions to fill the concession gap, kind of like what NBA 2K does or all those different video games. I think that is something that the industry is going to eventually, once we have the technology for it. I know Apple just invested in virtual reality technology, and that's something to keep an eye out for. Esports is going to keep growing. If you're keeping an eye on the esports ETF, it's been doing well during all of this. I'm not a professional stock guy. Don't come to me for that advice. Please don't take that for anything more than a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, esports is going to be great. Sports betting, it's gonna be big, and I think that's a lot of us probably have been sports bettors. I've been very big on daily fantasy for a while. DraftKings just went public. As if you notice during the match broadcast, they had the odds being shown on screen for DraftKings, and I think that's something that might become more and more normal as it becomes legalized in more states. And just keep an eye on those opportunities, because as those opportunities arise, so do the job opportunities. And it's easier to ride that wave to the top than it is to take something that's been going down for 40 years and try and ride that to the top, because you can be the expert on sports betting or the expert on esports. There aren't as many people out there who can do that compared to the guy who's the expert on the NFL or the NBA. Like, yeah, a lot of people can do that. So try and find unique angles to craft your personal brand and learn about those different, like virtual reality, augmented reality, things like that can help take you over the top.